Canadians are getting screwed right now out of a good prime minister. And as an American, I'm sad for them, obviously, because if I were a Canadian, I would want a strong conservative leader. But also as an American, I want there to be a conservative prime minister in Canada so that negotiations between America and Canada are better. So what I mean by screwed is this. This is what's happening right now. Pierre Poilievre, I think I said his name right. I usually don't, but I've talked about it a few times, so I decided to practice today. He was doing great in the polls. He was crushing it, and that was in part because the Conservative Party in Canada has made some massive improvements. Also, Pierre is a fantastic politician in his own right, but at the same time, you had Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, who are not only incompetent, but they are actually authoritarians. They have done awful things. If you're a Canadian watching, you know what I'm talking about. Even Americans know how bad Justin Trudeau is. And so what you saw was Pierre was soaring in the polls, basically until Donald Trump started making jokes about Canada being the 51st state. And here's the deal. I love Donald Trump. I actually thought the jokes were kind of funny. But the problem is this joke has become really routine. This wasn't just a joke talked about in December or even January. This is a video, I'm going to show you this, of Trump making this joke to the national press literally just this week. Check it out.
As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the U.S. Just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago, and makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state. Keeping "O Canada," the national anthem. I love it. I think it's great. Keep it. But it'll be for the state, one of our greatest states. Maybe our greatest state.
So again, I'm a huge Trump supporter, but there's nothing productive about this, in my opinion. You can tell me if you disagree in the comments, but I just don't really see how this advances Trump's agenda. It certainly doesn't advance Pierre or the Conservative Party's agenda in Canada. And what you've seen is that essentially, with all this talk of the 51st state, it's made a lot of patriotism in Canada, and it's riled up some Canadians. And it, essentially, because the Liberal Party is in power, it's given them a new issue to kind of get a new energy behind. And so here's a video I want to show you of the Canadian Minister of Finance talking about it.
But Canada's an independent, sovereign, proud country. And frankly, Canadians find it insulting that somebody as important in global affairs as the President of the United States of America sort of belittles Canada by saying, oh, you know, you're not an independent, sovereign country. You should join the United States.
So you can see right there, that's a member of the Liberal Party using this issue to his advantage, which is a problem because, again, if you're any Canadian, put it in if you're a Canadian listening, you don't have to do this, but if you're American, put it in our shoes. Even if this was the Biden administration, if Canada was talking to us like they wanted to make us another province, and you had even Pete Buttigieg up there saying, no, screw the Canadians, we're America, baby, we'd be like, cool, I don't like Pete Buttigieg, but that patriotism is appreciated. That's how Canadians feel, at least as far as I'm aware and what I've seen on X and other social media sites and talking to some of my friends who are Canadians. So what I want to show you right now is that this does not advance America First policies in the slightest. And that's really what I care about as an American. So I'm going to show you the polling of how Pierre Poilievre is decreasing and the Liberal Party is increasing because of this issue. Because frankly, the polling is really stunning. What you see right here, you can ignore all the lower lines. Those are other parties because it's not a two-party system in Canada like it is in America. But the top two are, the blue one it's kind of in reverse. The blue-ish one is the Conservative Party. The red is the Liberal Party. And you can see that towards the end of the graph, there's a huge spike for the Liberal Party, and there's a decrease in the Conservative Party that's pretty significant. You can see the disparity was much, much larger before, now not so much. And just to clear some things up so you guys understand this, if you haven't looked into the parliamentary system in Canada, I'm not sure if this is true of all parliamentary systems, but it is true in Canada. It's very different than in America. You're not voting for a president like they're voting for a prime minister. Instead, they're voting for a party, and that party then gets to form the government. And so the Conservative Party has promised, if we win, if we get a plurality, that's all they need. then we get to form the government and Pierre is going to be the prime minister. And it's actually very different than in America, because in America, as we've noticed, the president is essentially the leader of that party. I mean, Donald Trump is the leader of the Republican Party. And Joe Biden, when he was president, was essentially the leader of the Democrat Party because they had all the power. But this reverses the roles, where, Pierre is actually beholden to the Conservative Party because they're the ones that appointed him, just like Justin Trudeau was subservient to the Liberal Party. It's very interesting. There's kind of some pros and cons about it. But what you're seeing right now is this. This is the polls as of today. You can see that the Conservative Party is at 39.8%, with the Liberal Party at 31.9%. And here's the deal. It's not that close. So it's over. But the problem is that these parties can form coalitions that are going to make it very difficult for conservatives to lead. And you can see that just behind liberals is the New Democrat. And if you add both those numbers up, that's higher than the Conservative Party. So even if you get Pierre in there, now their plurality is much smaller than it could have been. In fact, they before, I believe, had actually a majority for a while, and now they only have a 44% chance of getting a majority, which would have been huge. So this is a big concern to you if you're a conservative in Canada. And I think, again, there's going to be a lot of people, I'm sure, in the comments who are like, you're not America first, you're talking about Canada. I think this is a huge concern for conservative Americans as well. If the goal from the Trump administration is to get more favorable trade outcomes and tariffs with Canada, which is kind of that's why the 51st state stuff is being talked about in the first place. That's a lot of kind of the tension between Canada and America right now. It's the trade stuff, it's the tariff stuff. If that's the goal, it's more favorable outcomes, all for it. I'm good with that. But would it not be better to negotiate with a conservative prime minister than a liberal one? We know Justin Trudeau and company are going to try to defy every little thing that Donald Trump does. So why wouldn't we want Pierre in, who we can actually work with? And so again, I love Trump, but his mission is too important to make this big of a mistake. And I think a lot of Canadians, you can tell me in the comments because I know a lot of you watch this show, I think that they want to work with Trump so long as Canada also gets favorable outcomes. And as much as I love America first, if I were a Canadian, I would obviously be Canada first. And I think that's how Pierre Poilievre is. And I think that demonizing conservative parties in other countries, it's frankly not very Trumpish. Trump has actually been pretty, happy and friendly with other conservative parties in other countries. He's done it with Hungary. He's done it with France. He's done it with many other countries, the Czech Republic. And I don't know why he's not doing it with Canada. I think he's gotten some frankly bad advice about tariffs, but he needs to be careful, because if his approval rating and the Conservative Party's polling can slip that fast, imagine how much more it can slip in the next few months. I hope that Donald Trump reverses course soon, because again, I think as an American and if I were a Canadian, I think we too can really work together as conservatives to get a huge win for both of our countries. There is only 1 month left to file your taxes, and the IRS is coming for your money. Fortunately, I've partnered with Quick Tax America, who hates the IRS as much as you do, so they fight to get you every dollar back possible. Quick Tax America has already gotten its average tax returner $3,000 back this year. And unlike other services, they're not raising rates this month. All federal tax returns through them are only $69. It's a completely transparent price because it's their only price, no matter how complicated your taxes are. They're going to do all the work for you as well. All you got to do is upload your files, answer a few basic questions, and then schedule a 15-minute finish your return call with a tax professional. They do all the rest of the work. So go check them out at quicktaxamerica.com, or you can go to the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you haven't already, go down below, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and watch another video.